Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. We are opening the show with the big news that came out about an hour ago. Tom Brady posts a video to social media and announces that he is retiring from the NFL for good after 23 seasons. He was emotional. He says that he was happy. He says, I love my family, I love my teammates, I love my friends, I love my coaches, I love football, and I love you all. I'm truly grateful on this day. Thank you. And posts a lot of great pictures. And then obviously the video of him looks like he's on the beach. So I don't know if this is going to be 2022 2.0 where he announces retirement 40 days later he unretires. But he also says, I want you guys to hear it from me this time, which makes me think that he's staying true to his word. I did notice last year that he clearly wasn't the same guy as he was. Even his first year on the Bucs, he was really good. And I thought he probably had one of the worst years of his career last year. And I think this is the right move for Tom. I know it's just not a good look to go out of the game with a bad home loss to the Cowboys in primetime in the postseason. I know that's not a good look. But he starts a video right away saying, I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good. So, Tom's retiring, obviously. The question now is, does he go to Fox to join Kevin Burkhardt? Will it be a three-man booth in the Super Bowl with him, Burkhardt, and Greg Olsen? And Greg Olsen, by the way, really has broke out in terms of a great analyst this season on Fox. But the question is, with this Brady news, does this overshadow him and put a little bit of pressure on him in the Super Bowl to have a good game? Because if he doesn't have a good game, then you know who Fox is going to make the lead analyst next. But like I said, I wouldn't rule out a three-man booth in the Super Bowl with Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt. So that's just one of the few subplots for Tom. But there's some speculation that Tom won't even broadcast the game for Fox. But that was before this announcement today. So it's just wild. I think he should have waited till after the Super Bowl to make this announcement, because this is going to dominate the storylines and take away from the Super Bowl for a few days. And will bring a lot of speculation to whether he's going to call the big game on Fox with Burkhardt and Olsen, or if he's going to be in the studio with Michael Strahan and Jimmy Johnson and Terry Bradshaw and all those guys, or in like an analyst studio role like those three gentlemen are. So I'm fascinated to see what happens with Tom. I don't think he will unretire again. That was just weird that report came out last year. And then 40 days later he unretires and goes back to the Bucs. So this is a big L for teams like the Raiders and the 49ers, who I thought were clearly going after Tom this offseason. And now it's Rodgers or bust for those two, and the Jets and some of these other teams. So there's a lot of ramifications to this. But the difference is that I think Tom is way past his prime and looked washed up last year. Meanwhile, Rodgers almost carried the Packers back to the postseason after a slow start. And I still think Rodgers has a couple of years left in him in the NFL. So that's the difference between the two quarterbacks. So it's going to be interesting to see what Tom does. Is it Fox? Does he take some time off from the NFL and spend some time with his family? So it's a very interesting time for Tom to figure out his next move post NFL. So congrats to the GOAT. And now, like I said, what's next? Okay, now move on to the other news and notes. Two major NFL coaching hires took place yesterday. We're going to start with the Denver Broncos who get the big fish, Sean Payton. The Saints are receiving Denver's 2023 first and 2024 second for Sean Payton. I think it's a fabulous hire for Denver. It's a major upgrade over Nathaniel Hackett, who was the worst coach in the NFL last season. I think this is great for Russell Wilson, who I think could be rejuvenated with a better coach in Payton. And Payton's an offensive coach. He gets a lot out of quarterbacks. He got a lot out of Jameis Winston in New Orleans. I think that even Breeze, before he was washed up, I think Breeze wouldn't have lasted as a good quarterback as long as he did if Sean Payton wasn't there. So I think it's a wonderful move for Denver, a move that they had to make. I think they needed a big name to redeem themselves after what I thought was the worst hire ever, pretty much, in Nathaniel Hackett, who was one and done and really was the worst coach we've seen probably since Urban Meyer. And then, obviously, after that, Jeff Saturday, who's pretty awful. And he might get hired as a full-time coach for the Colts, which would be sick. Like, really bad. But so they land the big fish in Payton, and apparently their first choice was DeMeco Ryans, so they had to quote-unquote settle for Sean Payton, and two different outlets are reporting it, one from Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, and the other was Adam Schefter. I think Adam Schefter's right because he has close ties to Denver and used to write for the Denver Post. So I think Adam Schefter's correct. He's the best in the business. So I believe it is Mr. Schefter with the correct report. And that's all due respect to Ian Rappaport, who I think is a good reporter as well. So somebody's source is lying. And I'm going to say that on paper you think that it's Schefter's source that's lying because you don't want the bad guy look. But I wonder where that Rappaport report came from, because why do you want an unknown quantity over a known quantity? So, that was very interesting, obviously. And then the Texans hired DeMeco Ryans, 6-year contract. That is a lot. They seem committed to this individual. They are telling you that this is a rebuild. This has been the most dysfunctional franchise in the NFL for a few years now. And the Texans, who have changed coaches, it seems like, for 4 years in a row. But this better be a hit. And they better get a quarterback in the draft for him to grow with. And then if they hit on the coach and the quarterback, they might be up there among the contenders in the AFC South and in the entire conference if they build the right team for DeMeco Ryans. So we'll see how this works out. DeMeco Ryans deserves this opportunity. He obviously was drafted by the Texans, so this means a lot to him. The 49ers request permission to interview Steve Wilks for its defensive coordinator job. I like that potential replacement for DeMeco Ryans. Steve Wilks is a good defensive coordinator. Bad head coach, but good defensive coordinator. So that would be a good hire to replace DeMeco Ryans. And the other one would obviously be Vic Fangio, who was reportedly going to Miami. And then he came out and said that he did not make up his mind yet. So Vic Fangio is still in play. And the 49ers also requested to interview Chris Harris, who's the Titans' PGC, for its defensive coordinator position. That is another interesting one. Eli Manning says that Daniel Jones deserves a payday, and he hopes he gets rewarded after a strong season with the Giants. I do think Daniel Jones will be paid. He's going to be making more than he should because that's how the NFL works. Derek Carr was making a lot of money. Deshaun Watson's overpaid. Russell Wilson's overpaid. Listen, those three guys are arguably all better than Daniel Jones from what they've accomplished in their careers. But this past season, you can make a case that Daniel Jones was better than all four of those, or all three of those guys. Deshaun Watson was awful. Russell Wilson, that was probably more Nathaniel Hackett's undoing. And then Derek Carr regressed this past season. That's why he's not going back to Vegas. So it's going to be interesting to see what Daniel Jones gets. Trey Lance's rehab is on track as he expects to be 100% for off-season program after ankle surgery. I think the 49ers will have a veteran quarterback next season. I know one of their options is done in Brady. We already went over that, but I do think that they'll have a veteran starting quarterback because that's a team ready to win now, and they don't want the quarterback position to hold them back. J.J. Watt's having fun on social media. He was hyped for DeMeco Ryans, and he tweeted to Tom Brady. He said, "Welcome to the newly retired NFL group." That is so funny. Speaking of Derek Carr, he was added to the Pro Bowl roster, and he's going to get a Vegas farewell after all. Derek Carr had a few good games this season, but they were all against bad defenses. But I think they just did that so he can get his moment with the Vegas fans. Josh Allen comments on posting about him calling in sick for the Pro Bowl to play golf at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. That's really funny. He must be pissed about how that Bills season ended and just wants to be away from football for a little bit because he knows he's getting criticized by the media and such. Nick Saban says that recruits wanted $1.3 million as he turned down two prospective student athletes who requested NIL deals totaling in $1.3 million. Shohei Ohtani inks a multi-year footwear and apparel endorsement deal with New Balance. So that doesn't surprise me. I thought Shohei was due for like a shoe deal of some sort. But he's going to get paid even more handsomely next winter. A lot of NBA stuff and WNBA. Courtney Vandersloot is moving on from the Chicago Sky. So we're going to be seeing a lot of new faces and new places in the league this year. So it's going to be interesting to see where she goes. The Blazers gave Jeremy Grant a max offer of 4 years, $112 million, but Grant might wait till his summer to consider his future. He probably thinks he can get more elsewhere. I think 4 for 112 is an overpay. Jeremy Grant's a nice player, but that's a pretty big, hefty deal. Obviously, the Laker-Knick game brought a lot of attention last night. Rui Hachimura is wearing number 28, 2 for Gianna and 8 for Kobe, which was very nice. LeBron James passes Steve Nash and Mark Jackson for 4th all-time on the assist list with 10,336. So that's insane. RJ Barrett got benched in the crunch time last night in the loss to the Lakers. If he was in there, they probably win. But he played really poorly last night. That's why he was benched. He had a selfish response. I got nothing to say. RJ Barrett was overrated by Knicks fans because he was number 3 pick in the draft. They thought he was going to be the Knicks version of Zion Williamson and John Morant. I didn't have those expectations. I thought he'd be a little notch below that. But even Darius Garland's a better player than RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett in a redraft in 2019 will probably still go in the lottery, maybe as high as 4th. But he's not what Knicks fans wanted him to be. He's not a bust either. He's probably Andrew Wiggins, and that is probably an insult to Knicks fans, but it's the truth of the matter. And Andrew Wiggins has made an all-star team and is the second best player, or was the second best player on a team that won a championship. I mean, maybe that'll be RJ Barrett down the road. But right now, he reminds me of Andrew Wiggins from when Andrew Wiggins was on the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, I think there's a chance RJ Barrett might be the surprise name, either traded or close to being dealt at the deadline. I think the Knicks are searching for a star badly. I don't know if RJ Barrett is a good fit with this team. He obviously is not liked by the coaching staff and gets punished for playing poorly. Meanwhile, his other teammates play poorly and they get favoritism by the staff. If the Knicks had a worse record, I think that Tom Thibodeau is not the coach. If Mitchell Robinson wasn't injured, I don't think Tom Thibodeau would be lasting much longer if Mitchell Robinson was healthy. That's the excuse they have for them right now. But Mitchell Robinson is a fabulous player. He's emerged as a top 10 center in the entire league this season. And his absence is really, really missed. If he played, they easily win that game. They win in regulation if he's there. Isaiah Hartenstein is an absolute stiff. The Clippers made him out to be this great player, but he was just a product of Ty Lue and Paul George and Kawhi while he was there. And he comes over to the Knicks, had some defense moments, but he's a zero offensively. He's a stiff. And Jericho Sims isn't bad either. He's a good defensive player. Made a big block on Jason Tatum the other night. But he's nowhere as good as Mitchell Robinson. Neither of those guys are. So that's the case for the 2-6 in the last 8. They missed Mitchell Robinson, and they probably go 6-2 in that stretch with Mitchell. And I mean Mitchell Robinson. And back to Barrett. If Utah said yes to that Knicks deal for Donovan Mitchell, RJ would have been on the Jazz. The reason why they went with the Cleveland deal instead of the Knicks deal is because Utah was intending to be in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. They took that Cleveland offer because they were trying to lose. And they offered more draft capital And that's why they took that deal. And little did they know that Lauri Markkanen would become an all-star this season. And now, because of that, they're out of the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. Listen, if they took that Knicks deal, they probably would be... They would certainly be ahead of the Spurs. They'd be ahead of the Rockets. So they would probably be somewhere between like that Spurs-Rockets tier and where the Wizards are in the overall NBA standings. Like, they'd be where the Orlando Magic are if it was R.J. Barrett in the picks instead of Lauri Markkanen and all they got for Donovan Mitchell. So, that's a good what-if with the Utah Jazz. And something that is kind of a failure on both the Knicks end for not getting Donovan Mitchell. Because if they had Donovan Mitchell, they're a top 4 seed in the East. Maybe top 5. They'd probably be where Cleveland is, to be realistic. They're probably where Cleveland is in 5th. Maybe 6th ahead of Miami, because Cleveland's actually pretty good. And Utah would be probably 14th or 13th in the West, only ahead of the Spurs and the Rockets. So that's a really good what-if with R.J. Barrett. And the possibility of that Donovan Mitchell trade if that happened. Someone that they're eyeing at the trade deadline is Pistons wing Saddiq Bey. I like Saddiq Bey. He's a really good player. He's just on a terrible Pistons team. And then the NBA announced its rising stars. So, the rookies and sophomores and rising stars, it's Paolo Banchero, Jalen Duren, AJ Griffin, Jaden Ivey, Walker Kessler, Benedict Mathurin, Keegan Murray, Andrew Nembhard, Jabari Smith, Jeremy Schoen, Jalen Williams, Jose Alvarado, Scotty Barnes, Josh Giddey, Jalen Green, Quentin Grimes, Bones Highland, Evan Mobley, Trey Murphy III, Alperen Sengun, and Franz Wagner. In the G League, it's Scoot Henderson, Sidi Kisoko, Mojave King, Kenneth Lofton Jr., Leonard Miller, Mac McClung, and Scottie Pippen Jr. So Scoot Henderson in this game is very interesting. Obviously, he's the projected number 2 pick in the draft. In any other year, he would have been the consensus number 1 overall pick. Because of Victor Wembanyama, he's not. So that's really interesting that he is in this game. And I think there will be eyeballs on this game because of it. Alrighty. Now move on to the NBA. We will recap the games from yesterday and look ahead to a busier slate for tonight. Heat over the Cavs, 100-97. Lakers over the Knicks, 129-123 in overtime. Clippers over the Bulls, 108-103. Bucks over the Hornets, 124-115. And the Nuggets over the Pelicans, 122-113. Tonight we have, looks like 9 games. 7 o'clock, you have the Wizards and the Pistons. My projection is the Wizards by 3/4, so 229 and 7/20. And the line is, let's see here. 6 and 238. Oh, I love the Pistons getting the points against the Wiz. Love it. I don't get why it's that high. They're worse without Rui Hachimura. Porzingis isn't 100%. Give me the Pistons getting the 6. I love that pick a lot. I really do like the under, so the under really should be the pick because of the differential. So the pick's going to be the under, but I really do like Pistons getting the 6 as well. Magic Sixers rematch from the other night where the Magic came back to beat Philly. My line is Philly by 15, total 225 3/4, and it is 9 and 230.5. I'm going to lay the 9 with Philly to bounce back. Blazers Grizzlies. My line is the Grizzlies by 9 3/4, total 228 and a 5th, and it's 5 and 239 under. 7:30 ESPN Nets Celtics should be a good one on the mothership station. So Celtics I project by 13, total 228 and a 10th, and it is 8.5 and 226.5. I really do like Boston minus the points. Thunder Rockets. My line is the Thunder by 9.25, total 229 3/4. And it's 5.5 and 231.5. I'm gonna lay the 5.5 with the Thunder. Warriors Timberwolves. My line is the Warriors by 2.5, total 233 and a 10th, and it is 3.5 and 238. I like the under. Kings Spurs. My line is the Kings by 11 3/4, so 235 and 9/20, and it's 8 and 244 under. 9 o'clock Raptors Jazz. My line is the Raptors by 1 3/4, so 229 and 9/20, and it is Utah by 3, total 230. Now give me the Raptors plus the 3 and plus 126 out. Right now, OG Anunoby's not playing, but I think there's value on Toronto tonight. And last but not least, 10 o'clock ESPN Hawks Suns, decent game. My line is the Hawks by 2, total 228 and 7/10, and it is the Suns by 1.5, total 229.5. Give me the Hawks getting the 1.5 and even money to win outright. All right, now I'll move on to the NHL. We'll go over the games from last night and look ahead to the games tonight. I think there will be one. No, there's two. Hurricanes over the Kings, 5-4 in overtime on a game winner by Sebastian Aho. So the Carolina Hurricanes is another comeback win. Capitals over the Blue Jackets, 4-3 in overtime on a game winner by Evgeny Kuznetsov. And the Senators over the Canadiens, 5-4. This was a crazy game. Back and forth. Montreal, it was tied in the third a few times, but Ottawa, Brady Tkachuk with the game winner with about a minute 18 to go. All right, 7:30 TNT, the Hurricanes and the Sabres. So the Sabres got some national TV buzz. Should be Bruins Maple Leafs on TNT, but that's not my decision. The Sabres get favoritism in the scheduling sometimes, but not as bad as NBC used to, though. And the Sabres are actually better than they were in the NBC days, to be fair. The Hurricanes are minus 152. The Sabres are plus 126. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 115. Unders minus 105. Canes minus 1.5 is plus 160. Sabres plus 1.5 is minus 200. I like the over. I think that this is an over game. The Canes have been an over team lately, so I really do like the over. And then Bruins Maple Leafs, the game of the night. Boston's minus 130. Toronto's plus 106. Over under 6. Overs minus 104. Unders minus 118. Bruins minus 1.5 is plus 198. Leafs plus 1.5 is minus 250. I'm going to go with over 6 at minus 104. All right, now we'll move on to college basketball. We'll go over the games from yesterday and look ahead to a busy window for tonight. Mississippi State over South Carolina, 66-51. Boston College upsets number 20 Clemson, 62-54. Number 23 Miami beats Virginia Tech, 92-83. Duke beats Wake, 75-73. Quinnipiac beats Marist, 72-66. Illinois beats Nebraska, 72-56. Arkansas beats Texas A&M, 81-70. VCU beats Davidson, 61-59. Florida beats St. Louis, 75-65. Eastern Michigan beats Ohio, 90-79. Kent State beats Central Michigan, 81-69. Toledo beats Miami of Ohio, 81-78. Ball State beats Bowling Green, 69-60. Akron beats Buffalo, 81-64. Northern Illinois beats Western Michigan, 73-59. Number 8, Kansas beats number 7, Kansas State, 90-78. Number 24, UConn beats DePaul, 90-76. Number 4, Alabama destroys Vanderbilt, 101-44. You don't see a game like that in conference play very often. Holy crap. Alabama might be the best team. Number 15, TCU beats West Virginia, 76-72. Maryland beats number 21, Indiana, 66-55. Iowa beats Northwestern, 86-70. Kentucky beats Ole Miss, 75-66. Dayton beats Loyola Chicago, 85-81 in overtime. UNLV beats Colorado State, 83-71. Boise State beats Air Force, 59-52. Wyoming beats Fresno State, 85-62. And Nevada beats number 22, San Diego State, 75-66. All right, now we look ahead to tonight's slate, which is pretty big. 6 o'clock, you have Albany, New Mexico. My line is Lull by 14.2, total 142 and 3/4. So I changed up how I do projections for the month of February. We'll see how this works. And this 14.5 and 143.5, very close. I'm going to go with the slight under. Big Ten Network, 6:30. Penn State at number 1, Purdue. My line is Purdue by 13.3, total 137 and 3/20. And it is Purdue 9.5, total 134.5. I'm going to lay points with Purdue. Fox Sports 1, number 17, Providence at number 16, Xavier. My line is Xavier 3.5, total 152 and 17/20, and it's 3.5 and 153.5. Slight under. So this is another 6:30 game. CBS Sports Network, Creighton, Georgetown. My line is Creighton by 8.7, total 148 and 9/20, and it's 13.5 and 149.5. Give me Georgetown getting the points. That's a lot. Number 2, Tennessee at Florida on ESPN2. My line is Tennessee by 4.2, total 132 and 4/5. And it is 5.5 and 133.5. Very close. I think it's the same number of the gap between the under and... Oh, no, 4.2. Wait, so 4 point... Yeah, it's 1.3. And then... not 1.3. 1.3 the other way would be 132.2. So, the pick here is slight to Florida. SEC Network, Georgia at number 25, Auburn. My line is Auburn by 8.5, total 136 and 4/5, and it's 11.5 and 141.5. Under. Tulsa, Cincinnati on ESPN Plus. My line is Cincinnati by 14.7, total 144 and 17/20, and it's 16.5 and 143.5. So I'm going to take a slight lean to Tulsa. East Carolina, South Florida on ESPNU. My line is South Florida by 2.7, total 141.5. And it's 7.5 and 141.5. Woo! Give me East Carolina getting the points. That's a lot. Holy Cross, BU. My line is BU by 10, total 134. And it is 7.5 and 131.5. So 2.5 each direction. So at gunpoint, I'll lay with BU. Army Lehigh. My line is Lehigh 5.7, total 141 and 11/20, and it is 1.5 and 144.5. I'm going to lay the points with Lehigh. Bucknell and American. My line is American by 10, total 133 1/5, and it is 7.5 and 131.5. I'm going to lay the points with American. Pitt UNC on the ACC Network. My line's UNC by 9.7, total 146 and 17/20, and it is 8.5 and 147.5. Very close numbers. I'm going to go with a slight lean to Carolina. Georgia Tech, Louisville. My line is Louisville by 0.8, total 137 and 9/10. And it's Georgia Tech by 1.5, total 134.5. So I'm going to take the over. New Hampshire at NJIT. My line's New Hampshire by 0.8, total 135 and 4/5. And it is, let's see here, 2.5 and 131.5. I'll take the over. Maine Bryant. My line is Bryant by 10.7, total 148.5. And it is Bryant by 8.5, total 152.5. Under. Binghamton, UMBC. My line is UMBC by 6.7, total 145. And it's 9.5 and 145.5. I'm going to take Binghamton getting the points. Navy Lafayette. My line is Navy by 3.7, total 132 and 13/20. And it's 1.5 and 124.5. I'm going to take the over. St. Bonaventure, Richmond. My line is Richmond by 8, total 134 and 2 fits. And we got, let's see, 4.5 and 131.5. I'm going to lay with Richmond. Rhode Island, St. Joe's. My line is St. Joe's by 1.8, total 141 and 2 fits. And it's 4.5 and 143.5. I'm going to take Rhode Island getting the points. UMass, George Mason. My line is George Mason by 4, total 141 and a 10th. And we have here 6.5 and 146.5. Under. George Washington, LaSalle. My line is George Washington by 2, total 145 and 9/10. And we got 1.5 and 148.5 under. Radford Presbyterian. My line is Radford by 7.3, total 134 and 4 fits, and it's 5.5 and 126.5 over. Longwood Winthrop. My line is Longwood by 1.7, total 141 and 3 fits. And it's 3.5 and 136.5 over. Gardner Webb Charleston Southern. My line is Gardner Webb by 2.7, total 140 and 17/20. And it is, let's see, 3.5 and 138.5. Over. SC Upstate Campbell. My line is Campbell 4.7, total 136 and a 10th. It's 4.5 and 132.5 over. Sanford, Western Carolina. My line is Sanford 3.3, total 144 and 11/20. And 4.5 and 144.5. Slightly into Western Carolina. Chattanooga Furman. My line's Furman by 9, total 150.5, and it is 10.5 and 151.5. Slightly into Chattanooga. Wofford, East Tennessee State. My line is Wofford 1.3, total 140 and 13/20. And we got 3.5 and 139.5. I'm going to take East Tennessee State plus the points. Sam Houston and Texas Rio Grande Valley at 7:30. My line is Sam Houston by 5.3, total 148 and 4 fits. And it's 9.5 and 144.5. I'm going to take Texas Rio Grande getting the points. Valpo, Missouri State at 8 o'clock. My line's Missouri State by 6.7, total 134 and 3/4. And it's 9.5 and 131.5. I'm going to take the over. UIC, Illinois State. My line is Illinois State by 4.7, total 136.5. And it's 5.5 and 135.5. Slight over. Belmont and Murray State. My line's Pick'em and 142 and 7/10. And it's essentially a Pick'em and 144.5, but it's -1.8 Murray State, -111 Belmont. So the pick's going to be a slight under. Southern Illinois Bradley. Mine's Bradley by 2, total 130 and 3/4. And it's 5.5 and 126.5. Over. Indiana State Evansville. My line is Indiana State by 9.5, total 142 and a 10th. And it's 13.5 and 148.5. I'm going to take the under. Tarleton and UT Arlington. My line is Tarleton by 2, total 133 and a 5th, and it's 1.5 and 103.5. I'll take the over. 8:30 Fox Sports 1 Villanova at number 14 Marquette. Mine's Marquette by 5.3, total 146 and a 10th or a 5th, and it's 5.5 and 146.5. Very close. So 0.2 from Villanova and 0.3 from the under, so slight under. St. Hall, St. John, CBS Sports Network, by St. John's 2.5, total 141 and 2 fits. And we got St. Hall 1.5, total 142.5. I'm gonna take St. John's getting the 1.5 at home and minus 102 to win outright. Minnesota Rutgers Big Ten Network, my line is Rutgers 11.5, total 129 and 11/20. And it is 14.5 and 126.5 over. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma on ESPN2 at 9 o'clock. My line is Oklahoma 2.2, total 132 and 3 fits. And it's 3.5 and 129.5 over. SMU Tulane on ESPNU. My line is Tulane 13, total 150 and 7/20. And it's 8.5 and 158.5 under. Northern Iowa Drake. My line is Drake by 8, total 136 and 2 fits. And it's 7.5 and 137.5. Slight under. Florida State, NC State on the ACC Network. My line is NC State by 7.8, total 146 and 7/10. And it's 9.5 and 151.5 under. LSU, Missouri on the SEC Network. My line is Missouri by 5.7, total 146 and 3/10. And it's 9.5 and 146.5. I'm taking LSU plus the points. That's a lot. Stephen F. Austin and New Mexico State. My line is Stephen F. Austin by 3.7, total 145 and 9/20. And it's 2.5 and 146.5. Very close. I'm going to do slight lean Stephen F. Austin. Next up, Southern Utah and Cal Baptist. My line is Baptist 3.7, total 143 and 13/20. And it is 1.5 and 143.5. So I'm going to lay the points with Cal Baptist. Abilene Christian, Seattle. My line is Seattle by 5.3, total 142 and 2 fifths. And it's 7.5 and 144.5. That's a lot. So I'm going to take Abilene Christian. So it's the same distance, 2.2. And 2.1. So I have to take Abilene Christian plus the 7.5. And last but not least, 10:30 Fox Sports 1, New Mexico, Utah State. Fabulous game in the Mountain West. My line is New Mexico 0.3, total 151.25. And it's Utah State by 4.5, total 156.5. So I'm going to go with New Mexico plus the 4.5 and plus 158 to win the game outright. All right, now move on to soccer. We'll go over the notable results from yesterday and look ahead to today's soccer games. We will start with the English Carabao Cup. So Newcastle over Southampton 2-1 as Newcastle advances 3-1 on aggregate, as it's Newcastle's first final in 24 years. As today we'll see at 3 o'clock Manchester United and Nottingham Forest. A very interesting game, obviously. Man United is minus $1 billion, and Nottingham Forest is 50-1 as a dog. So for this game, I'm going to do under 2.5 goals at even money. All right, the German DFB Pokal, Stuttgart over Paderborn 2-1, Union Berlin over Wolfsburg 2-1. All right, 2 games today, 12 o'clock. You have RP Leipzig and Hoffenheim. Just going to pull up the odds real quick. Leipzig's minus 260. Hoffenheim's plus 550. Draws plus 360. I'm going to go over 3.5 goals at plus 116. And at 245, you have Mainz and Bayern. Bayern's minus 250. Mainz is 5-1. Draws plus 370. I'm going to go over 3.5 goals at plus 114. Coppa Italia, Inter Milan over Atalanta 1-0. And then 2 today, Fiorentina and Torino at noon. Fiorentina's minus 115. Torino's plus 310. The draw's plus 220. I'm going with Fiorentina at minus 115. And at 3 o'clock, you have AS Roma and Cremonese. Roma's minus 230. Cremonese 550. Draws 310. For this one, I'm going to go over 2.5 goals at minus 118. There is actually a lot of soccer today. All right, we'll start with Spanish La Liga, Betis and Barcelona. Barcelona's minus 145 on the road. Betis is plus 380. The draw's plus 270. For this one, I'm going to go over 2.5 goals at even money. Ligue 1 in France. So, first up, we have Angers and AC Ajaccio. Angers plus 130, AC plus 230, draw plus 210. I'm going to go with Angers at plus 130. Lille and Clermont Foot. Lille's minus 190, Clermont plus 550, draw plus 190, or 290. I'm going to go under 2.5 goals at minus 116. Nantes and Marseille. Marseille's minus 155. Nantes is 4-1. The draw's plus 280. I'm going to go with under 2.5 goals here at minus 116. Reims and Lorient. Reims is minus 140. Lorient's plus 350. Draw plus 270. I'm going to go with over 2.5 goals at minus 110. Toulouse and Troyes. Toulouse at minus 160. Troyes is 380. Draws 3-1. I'm going to go with under 2.5 goals at plus 122. 3 o'clock, you have Monaco and Auxerre. Monaco minus 340, Auxerre plus 750, draw plus 450. I'm going to go with under 2.5 goals at plus 152. You have Lens and Nice. My pick here is going to be over 2.5 goals at plus 108. Lyon and Brest. So my pick here is going to be under 2.5 goals at plus 124. Montpellier and PSG. My pick here is going to be over 3.5 goals at plus 122. And Rennes and Strasbourg. My pick here is going to be over 2.5 goals at minus 104. The Dutch League, RKC Woolwich and the Go Ahead Eagles at 2 o'clock. RKC's plus 120. The Eagles are 2-1. Draws plus 220. I'm going to go with RKC at plus 120. And in the Mexican Liga tonight, you have Atlas and Toluca. Atlas is plus 105. Toluca's plus 230. Draw plus 250. I'm going to go with Atlas at plus 105. So I'm just going to check and see if there's anything else that's to be touched on. Yes. English FA Cup, Blackburn over Birmingham, 1-0 in extra time. All right, now I'm going to do my first NFL mock draft of the year. This is probably going to look dramatically different the next several times I do this, and this was obviously completed before the news of Tom Brady. All right, so number 1, the Chicago Bears. Jalen Carter, defensive line, Georgia. The Bears have a lot of options here. They could trade down. Carter and Will Anderson, to me, are the best options here for the Bears. And Carter, somebody who would instantly improve the team's rush defense and would be a blue chipper to build around. Number 2, the Houston Texans. Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama. This match feels like the most certain to happen in this draft, whether it's at 2 or trade up to 1. Young is an instant upgrade over Davis Mills, and he'll bring stability and upside to this position, which the Texans need. Number 3, the Arizona Cardinals. Will Anderson, edge rush, Alabama. The Cardinals get a slam dunk here with landing perhaps the best player in the draft. With J.J. Watt retired, the Cards have a need in their pass rush, and they get themselves a stud that gives them stability in this position. Number 4, the Indianapolis Colts. C.J. Stroud, quarterback, Ohio State. The Colts are a little bit of an unknown as of now, whether it comes to the draft. If they don't land a veteran, then Stroud here is realistic. And Stroud here would be interesting because the Colts do have some pieces offensively. Number 5, the Seattle Seahawks from the Denver Broncos. Miles Murphy, edge rusher, Clemson. The Seahawks are a first-round wild card considering they have 2 first-rounders. The team's biggest weakness was in their pass rush. Murphy is explosive, and he will bring what this team has lacked. Number 6, the Detroit Lions from the Los Angeles Rams. Tyree Wilson, edge rusher, Texas Tech. The Lions absolutely need to go defense with one of their 2 picks, if not both. And rushing the passer is something they lacked this past season. Wilson is raw, and he may need some time to put it all together. 7, the Las Vegas Raiders. Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle, Northwestern. I absolutely love this pick for the Raiders, especially if they land Aaron Rodgers. Skoronski is a plug-and-play prospect that will be a massive upgrade on a weak offensive line in Vegas. Number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. Joey Porter, cornerback, Penn State. The Falcons have a ton of holes on their roster, especially on defense. Porter is very physical and would fit nicely in today's NFL, but his weakness as a player is he gets too handsy. Number 9, the Carolina Panthers. Anthony Richardson, quarterback, Florida. The Panthers are another team that's an unknown in terms of quarterback position. Richardson is raw, but showed flashes in college with his mobility, but has not developed the passing game yet. Number 10, the Philadelphia Eagles from the New Orleans Saints. Christian Gonzalez, cornerback, Oregon. It's rare when you see a team in the Super Bowl picking in the top 10 to drop it. Here we are. Their secondary is the weak spot of the Eagles, I think, and Gonzalez is somebody that has strength and size to be successful, but he needs to be better at run support. Number 11, the Tennessee Titans. Paris Johnson, offensive tackle, Ohio State. The Titans are a team that really needs some youth on their roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Johnson is somebody that is a plug-and-play guy, versatile, and he and Taylor Lewan would fit well together. Number 12, the Houston Texans from the Cleveland Browns. Jordan Addison, wide receiver, USC. This would be an excellent pick for the Texans as they land the best receiver in the class here in this mock. Addison is very fast. He can stretch the field. And he and Bryce Young would be the dream haul for the Texans. 13, the New York Jets. Broderick Jones, offensive tackle, Georgia. The Jets have a nice foundation of a team ready to win now, and Jones would be a good addition to it. Jones faced really strong SEC competition in the past and had success, and would be an upgrade over what the Jets have right now. 14, the New England Patriots. Trenton Simpson, linebacker, Clemson. The Pats probably should go offense here, but there are solid defensive players that would fit their team. Simpson is a perfect built type of player with his versatility, his speed, and is a good playmaker against the run and the pass. Number 15, the Green Bay Packers. Quentin Johnson, wide receiver, TCU. The Packers have a lot of holes on the offensive side of the ball, and that's with or without Aaron Rodgers. Johnson was perhaps the best wideout in college football this past season and has excellent running routes and has great hands. 16, the Washington Commanders. Kelee Ringo, cornerback, Georgia. The Commanders are a team that people look at in terms of a quarterback possibility, but here I have them improving their secondary. Ringo is super physical and has great size. 17, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Devin Witherspoon, cornerback, Illinois. The Steelers have some options here with this pick. The Steelers have a need for their secondary help alongside Minkah Fitzpatrick. And Witherspoon has questions about his frame, but he would fit nicely in Pittsburgh. 18, the Detroit Lions. Deontay Banks, cornerback, Maryland. The Lions go defense again with their second pick as they go with Banks. He really put together a good season with Maryland last year and is big and physical who can match up against NFL receivers. 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brian Branch, safety, Alabama. The Bucs are a candidate to draft a quarterback here, now especially with Tom retired. But they do need youth on their roster. Branch is the best safety in this class. Really good off the edge. Really good in coverage. Can tackle very well. Number 20, the Seattle Seahawks. Will Levis, quarterback, Kentucky. And it's very likely that Levis will go much sooner than this because there's some buzz he could be drafted before Bryce Young. The Seahawks could very well sign Geno Smith long-term, but if he isn't signed long-term, then a quarterback here could be likely. Levis didn't have a great season, but scouts love his potential at the pro level. 21, the Los Angeles Chargers. Michael Mayer, tight end, Notre Dame. The Chargers don't have any needs in particular, but they land a stud here in Mayer. He is the best tight end that will be a first rounder in some time and already has drawn comparisons to Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce. 22, the Baltimore Ravens. Bijan Robinson, running back, Texas. The Ravens are a dark horse to draft the quarterback if Lamar Jackson bolts, but they badly need offensive help. Running back is not a need for the Ravens, but Robinson would give this offense a huge lift. 23, the Minnesota Vikings. Cam Smith, cornerback, South Carolina. You can make a case the Vikings are getting a steal here with Smith falling this far. Smith brings explosiveness and physicality and has potential to be more well-rounded and polished. Number 24, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Antonio Johnson, safety, Texas A&M. The Jaguars are in a nice spot, and they can go in any direction they'd like. Their secondary is arguably their biggest weakness, and Johnson is a rangy cover man for being a safety and is really good against the run. 25, the New York Giants. Jackson Smith Njiba, wide receiver, Ohio State. The Giants should keep Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley around, but they also need more help around them. Smith Njiba barely played this past season, but has so much potential to be that top wide receiver that the Giants lack. 26, the Dallas Cowboys. Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver, Tennessee. The Cowboys should probably go elsewhere with their pick, but a wideout makes sense. Hyatt broke out this past season a lot due to Hendon Hooker's great year, but Hyatt is a deep threat, could easily get open, and got open a lot against the SEC competition. 27, the Buffalo Bills. Osiris Torrance, guard, Florida. The Bills, who are in need of interior line help, land a possible steal here with Torrance. He has great hands, a ton of power, and is really nasty against his opponents. And he would just improve anybody's line. 28, the Cincinnati Bengals. Anton Harrison, offensive tackle, Oklahoma. The Bengals' offensive line was exposed at times throughout the season and in the postseason, some due to injuries, which makes this pick one that makes sense. Harrison almost went back to school on a big NIL deal, but he will be highly touted in this draft for needy offensive line teams. 29, New Orleans Saints from the San Francisco 49ers via the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos. Nolan Smith, edge, Georgia. So now the Saints have this pick courtesy of the Sean Payton deal. This would be a quarterback if they don't opt for a veteran. Marcus Davenport could bolt as a free agent, and Smith was on that loaded Georgia front, so this route makes sense. 30, the Kansas City Chiefs. Dalton Kincaid, tight end, Utah. I don't love the idea of the Chiefs drafting a tight end at the end of the first round due to actual needs on their roster. Kincaid was a solid player in college and would add another weapon for Patrick Mahomes in that offense. And number 31, the Philadelphia Eagles. Isaiah Foskey, edge, Notre Dame. The Eagles don't have a lot of holes and could trade up for something more significant if they'd like. Foskey is a super versatile player who would provide even more depth to a really good Eagles pass rush. Obviously, the Miami Dolphins would have picked at 21, but they had to forfeit their draft selection due to tampering with Tom Brady. So, I believe that's what it was for. I could be wrong. But Miami's not picking the first round. That's not good for them. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. Not a lot of games I actually like tonight. There's some in the NBA that I'm looking at here. There's some in the NHL I like. And I don't really love the college slate. So I'm going to go take a total involving a team that I took last week, and it worked out. And that's the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm going to go over 6.5 between the Canes and the Sabres. I'm going to lay 1 unit on it. So over 6.5 minus 115 between the Hurricanes and the Sabres for my final best bet of January. Or I'm sorry, my first best bet of February, as January best bets went a whopping 17-3. With me being up 28 and 37 hundredths of a unit to start the year. All right, hope you guys have a great day, everyone.